bit of a bittersweet evening for us. It's the end of a 3-week residency that we've been here at Dartmouth College, and it's been glorious. And it's also the end of a 3-year collaboration with Dartmouth College to make this all happen. In 2018 or so, the Washington Performing Arts, an organization that we have worked with for much of our 50 years, came to me and said, well, would you be interested in doing a ballet about Hazel Scott? And you know what? I didn't know who Hazel Scott was. And so I did some research, and I discovered this amazing woman that should be known by everyone, but has been forgotten.
Every time you look at pictures of her, she's absolutely that like old Hollywood. Like she's glamour. Hazel Scott was the first woman, white or black, to have a television program in America.
She was an entertainer in the nightlife scene in New York.
I knew that there was someone who at one point played 2 pianos at the same time, but I didn't actually link that that was like her.
If we compared her to contemporary times, she would have been Beyonce, and if we found out that no one knew who Beyonce was in 50 years, we'd be besides ourselves.
Not only was she an incredible performer, but she was an activist, she was a mother, like she was a well-rounded person.
It was shocking to me not to know about someone who had been such a trailblazer, and I thought that it was important for everyone, all Americans, to know about her. Also, all the young black children, they needed to have a vision of somebody who had had that much clarity in her work and had that much power in her work.
I've learned so much about Hazel. It shaped how I view myself as a musician. It shaped how I viewed myself as a New Yorker, as an American, as a black woman. Just learning her story is a great joy of my life, and it's definitely one of those things that changes your trajectory.
It started with getting the call that every choreographer wants to get, which is a call from Virginia Johnson saying, would you like to create on my company?
When the idea of doing the Hazel Scott Ballet came up, I thought of Tiffany right away, because I thought her work was interesting, that she had a lot of knowledge, she had a lot of skill, but she was also a black woman. And so that was really a very important link to make to this black woman who had made so much history that had been forgotten.
I really love research, and so there was, I think, with Hazel Scott, even though for some she's an unknown quantity, there still is enough information out there. So right away I was able to read about her. I was able to be in contact with her son, who is such an amazing, generous human being. And I think what that did for me was allow her to be a full human being, because it wasn't just this iconic woman from the past. I was able to hear about her as a working artist mother while I was becoming a working artist mother was another wonderful entry point.
Hazel Scott's son, Adam Clayton Powell III, I love saying that, because of course down here on 125th Street we have the Adam Clayton Powell Jr. office building. So Adam Clayton Powell is part of Harlem in a very, very important way, and very interested in making sure that his mother is known.
This piece, it travels in time throughout her life, but it also travels from different geographic locations. So we start in Trinidad because that is where she's from. And Hazel Scott's mother was a band leader. And I really feel, and this is something that her son, Adam, has talked about, like those polyrhythms that she was hearing early in her childhood was a direct connection of like why she was able to swing the classics, like why she was able to take this and this and this. It did not feel like they could be together and make them into this like amazing gumbo that everyone was like, oh my God. She was able to come from Trinidad and lands in Harlem during the Harlem Renaissance.
While I was designing the Harlem section, I used a ragtime piano as a sample so that it could really be this transition of when she arrived. I tried to be as historically accurate with the sound design as I could be. I used sounds from like Model T for just to give it a different feel. Cars sounded different then, the street sounded different, and wanted to help transport people to that time.
then from there, we're in the United States during McCarthyism.
In choosing the audio clips with Hazel's voice, it really stemmed from a research session that Tiffany and I had. We were trying to understand her more and really get, like, what were her thoughts? Like, we know what other people said, but what does she think? And we came across a wonderful radio interview where she was being asked what America means to her.
I'm an American by choice. And I'll tell you what I mean by that. I came here when I was 4 years old. When I was old enough to know my own mind, I decided that there was no other place in the world that I could enjoy so many things that I enjoy in America. When you see me, because I'm a Negro, you automatically would think, what does she think of Jim Crow and racial prejudice in this our America? I think that Jim Crow doesn't belong anywhere in this country of ours. I also think that we're the ones who can talk about it because we're the ones to whom it happened. I'll tell you something else that I think about America. I think America is as big and as strong as its weakest point. And I think that as a Negro, it is my duty to speak out against injustice because it is up to a Negro to be the conscience of this great land of ours. We cannot advocate for people in other lands what we don't have here.
Tiffany has said that Hazel Scott's erasure was intentional, and I believe that that's true. She was, of course, part of the whole House Un-American Activities Committee situation, and that did destroy her career.
And then we go to Paris because she was forced to go to Paris.
Breaking news from Expat Radio. Beloved pianist and entertainer Hazel Scott has come to our beautiful Paris, seeking refuge from the McCarthyism prevalent in the United States.
If this piece had happened before the summer of 2020, it would have been a very different piece.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm grateful that we had the time. You know, neither of us could have expected.
Usually in a ballet, you have 40 hours to get it from walk in the door to on the stage. But here the dancers have had a chance to do their own research and understand and think about how Hazel's life is reflected in theirs as well.
Dance Theater of Harlem dancers are incredible. They're incredible athletes and they're incredible artists. I wanted to hear from them, like, what resonates with you with the story. And like day one, we sat down and we watched a documentary about her and just talked about her. We talked about like what worked, like what is something that you didn't know, what was surprising.
What I love about this group of dancers is that they are human beings who understand that they are not just pretty things to look at, but they have something to say. And the resonance that they've had working with Tiffany on the subject of Hazel, you see it. You see them carry it on the stage.
And I think also the dancers picked up on that there's a responsibility around this and that they're carrying not only the DTH mantle forward, but the Hazel Scott mantle forward, and they didn't shy away from that, which was fantastic.
Hazel really set a high bar and a very high standard of what she expected from herself. Adam, her son, we were having dinner with him and he was just talking about going over and over one phrase, how she would really perfect her craft, and in perfecting her craft also finding time to speak on behalf of people who couldn't. I feel like that is the standard.
You know, being part of Dance Theater of Harlem has been pretty much my life story. I came here in 1968 because I'd been told I couldn't be a ballerina, and this is the place that enabled me to do that. So I've been on this mission my whole life to make a difference in this art form.
To be invited to your party, it's like it's the only party. So I'm very, very grateful. So thank you for that opportunity to be able to just be in this place that is so iconic, to be able to work with you as like a living icon about an icon. It's just like, oh wow.
I think one of the things that's exciting about this work and working with you is being able to create the art that this time needs. That we have a history of understanding the way to make a ballet. Mm-hmm. And that is something that's referencing a past. And those ballets belong in that past. And they're glorious, some of them.
Absolutely.
But they are about that time. But what this century needs is for us to make work that is for the people who are living in this time in a way that they can perceive that it is for them, for the 21st century.
I love that. I hope audiences go out and listen to her music, go to the Library of Congress, or just take out your phone and just Google Hazel Scott.